Hello and welcome to our fiberglass kick panel video. My name is Robert Garza and today we're going to do kick panels. Got a 1997 Honda Civic. Well, why do we do kick panels? That's to make the car sound great. You put speakers in the OEM locations, it's just going to sound OEM, but we want to get that sound stage right in the center. Get that broad staging up on the dash. And there's only one way to do it. That's kick panels. So let's get started. First thing you want to do is look at the car. See how much room you have. Sometimes you'll have computer brains, sometimes you'll have trunk releases or hood releases, you'll have dead pedals, you'll have some stuff that sometimes you need to move. But take a look at this one here. This one's fairly easy. And it's a very nice kick panel. We have a lot of room. We've got some room between the kick panel and the clutch. Here's our dead pedal. We also have to remember that we have the hood release here. And what we're going to want to do is take the kick panel off. Take that off. One of these tools without damaging it. There's also another one up underneath that kind of unscrews. There's this one here. That's a little bit too slippery. Now if this is your first kick panel, make sure that you take your time in pulling it out so that you don't damage it. You pull from the back, pull it forward, and you'll hear it pop loose without breaking the kick panel. So we're going to put that aside for now. And you can see we have a lot of room in here. We've got a good 2 inches of room inside. We're going to want to get rid of this because I have a feeling the speaker's going to get in the way. Here's the speaker here that we're going to use. And you can see the kick panel, the dead pedal is going to be in the way and it should cause some problems for us. But this should be okay. So let's get this out of here and then we'll mask it off and get it all ready to go. All right, here are the materials that we're going to need for step one of this kick panel. What we want to do is build an enclosure on the bottom of the floor, so covering the carpet and the side kick panel. And it's pretty basic. We're going to use 1.5 ounce chop mat. And I've showed you this in other videos, but what you want to do is split it. If you grab the center, some places are easier than others, you grab the center of it and pull it, and it'll split and give you half the weight. So you'll have 3/4 of an ounce here, 3/4 of an ounce here, and then you want to tear it up into little pieces. I've got some right here to show you. You want to tear it up just like this, so that you have different shapes and sizes, so that when you put it in there, you have little pieces that you can lay in there so everything lays nice and flat and it doesn't bind up on you. It'll make life really easy. Other things that we're going to need: fiberglass resin. I'm using the bubble gum, it's my favorite. MEKP. We're going to need some mixing cups, mixing sticks. We're going to need brushes. We're going to need some vinyl tape. Also plastic. This is 4 mil. You can get 6 mil. You can get that just about anywhere. You can call Select and we'll get it for you. Speaker rings we may use or may not use, all depending on the spacing that we have. You're going to need rubber gloves and definitely wear a respirator anytime you're working with resin. I've got our Alpha scissors, our Alpha knife, and this is everything that we're going to need to do that base. Our next step is to grab some plastic. This is 4 millimeter thick plastic. You can get it from us or you can get it just about anywhere. What we want to do is protect the car as best we can. So I got a piece big enough to do the whole compartment here, and also go up all the way to the top of where the kick panel mounts to the car. I'm going to take some of our vinyl duct tape, which you've seen me use in the previous videos, and I'm going to tape it up to the car and get it in place so that we can lay a base of fiberglass mat. Now just by putting the plastic in here, we can already see what kind of shape we have and how much space we have to work with. All right, we're ready to glass. So I've got my resin all mixed up. I made a half a liter, 1.5% MEKP. I took some chopped mat and I shredded it all up. Basically split it in half to give me a 1/4 ounce. This will lay in very nicely with very few wrinkles. I'm tapping the glass so that we get all the air bubbles out of it. And I'm not putting any glass past where I really need it, because I really just need the pocket in here. I don't need any of that out there, so I'm not going to waste any time or product. This will give us our foundation and our base to the enclosure. Okay, you can see we're finished. I've got 2 layers of 1.5 ounce chopped mat, soaked with resin, patted down to make sure there's no air bubbles, and it's already started to cure. Because I've been doing this for maybe 15 minutes, and the resin starts to cure in about 20, depending on your climate. Here in Florida, it cures pretty fast. So we're going to let that cure, and then we're going to pull it out, and that'll give us our base for our kick panel. I wanted to show you, here's the speaker that we're going to use, and here's the kick panel piece. And that's how you would be seeing it right in on the car here. There's your right side. Right there is where your trunk lever is. Now we want this speaker to mount right in here. But as you can see, there's no real room to get it in here. Now once we've mounted it, and we have the speaker, let's use the grill, it's a little easier to hold. We have the speaker here, and here's the back side. We're going to have all this area here to cover, and we're going to use some mold fabric on that so that we can mount the 2 pieces together. So we know the speaker is going to go there. I'm going to take my black magic marker, and I'm going to put a mark back here where the magnet is. And then I'm going to put another mark up in the front where the basket meets the panel. So I have my 2 marks. Here's the back of the magnet, and here's where it mounts. Doesn't matter because we're going to be covering this anyway with some type of vinyl, so the markings are not a big issue. So if you could visualize this, we want to cut a hole, I would say 1/4 of an inch deeper, come across, taper it out, kind of like a speaker, so that this shape can fit right in that hole. And depending on the material that you're using, you can cut this with a razor knife. Just want to be careful and make sure that your razor knife is new. And you can work it along. Okay, there's our hole. And now we can test fit the speaker, take another look, and see the progress that we have. The magnet's already starting to show out through the back, and that'll show us where we need to trim next so that we can get maximum depth out of the speaker here, out of the kick panel. There's your kick panel. Here's your speaker location right here. What we want to do is we're going to super glue the speaker ring here, and then we're going to go back with some Duramix, because Duramix is flexible, it's a urethane, and it won't crack. So we need to support the back part of this, and so I cut some MDF pieces, and what you want to do is take a quick measurement, mark with a pencil. I'm going to show you that. mark with a pencil and put that on there. So I'm going to do that right now. Now I'm leaving about 1/4 of an inch of the ring sticking up through the panel so that we can fill that and then sand it down. And you can see that the speaker fits the ring perfectly. It only overlaps by about 1/4 of an inch, but once you put the grill on, it's almost completely flush. These are one of our speaker rings, and I just trimmed it just a little bit so it fit perfect. Okay, so I'm going to take it, put it right where I want it. I'm going to hold it there. I'm going to put a standoff here at the back. And I'm going to mark it with a pencil. And so I'm just going to trim that right there. Okay, I've trimmed the piece of MDF. I've got a little piece of 40 grit here. And I'm going to bevel one of the edges so that when I set it right where I want it, I'll have more surface contact with the wood. So there's our kick panel, ready for us to glue the speaker ring in place. And we just keep on moving. All right, I'm going to take some of the 10-second super glue, and I'm going to tack the front of this in a couple different places, wherever the plastic and the wood are meeting. I'm going to tack it there. Our base is dry. It's been about a half an hour to 40 minutes actually. You got to remember, when resin is thin, it takes longer to dry than if it's thick, because it doesn't generate enough heat. But it's dry now. It's not even tacky anymore. So now we're ready to pull this out. So I'm going to release the tape, pull the tape off where I can, along the back here and the sides. And it will be flexible, but we want to be careful and keep its shape the best we can. Okay, there she comes. And there's our mold. We've pulled out the mold. As you can see, it looks just like the inside of the car. It's flexible and rigid. It's looking pretty good. And I'm going to leave it on the plastic for now just because it'll keep it from making a big mess. Now here's the kick panel that we've worked on. It's got the speaker in place, okay, with a little standoff. And if we put it in here, we shove it all the way into the corner, we can see that it fits into the car somewhat nicely, okay? It's not going to be perfect along every edge. Your best edge will be the bottom edge, and your back edge should be pretty good. This edge should be fairly nice, but the top is very difficult because it's tough to glass vertically. But that's okay. I want you to remember that you can make a complete enclosure by doing kick panels, but keep in mind that the speakers were engineered to go in a door. They're made for a free air environment. So if you pack them into this little, 1/4 cube or less, they're not going to sound as good as the engineer designed it. So what I usually do is leave the top open, okay? And you can even fill it with some foam. We have some 1/2 inch or some 1/4 inch foam that you can put in there for damping, and it makes a world of difference. It's polyfoam. And you can just stick it right on the side, on the top, and it makes a world of difference. It absorbs every frequency from the back of the speaker. So we're looking pretty good here. Now what we want to do is take our magic marker and trace the line of the glass that we're actually going to use, and then trim off what we're not going to use and throw it away. Now you can see the trim line where I'm going to cut. Before we break out the saw and trim this all out, I want to show you a couple other ways of making this kick panel. This is somewhat traditional and somewhat different. But I have 3 different ways of making kick panels. The first and the fastest way, and this will all depend on your customer or yourself, depending on what you want, is you don't need this, okay? We can just set this aside. Now we have the kick panel, we follow all the same procedures that we just followed. And now we take our mold fabric, this is our new micro mold fabric, it's a dark blue, and we'll super glue this right onto the panel, and we'll soak it with resin, finish it off, and then paint it. Okay, we can paint it with the texture coating, paint it to match the same gray on this particular vehicle, and you can have those done in an afternoon. It takes very little time, and so your customers can afford it. Now, a coax speaker like this, and this is a really high-end coax speaker, that'll give you about, I say, 80% of the 100% that you're really looking for. But if you're looking for that 100%, we all know that you need to go to separates. You need to get some really awesome 6.5s and a real awesome tweeter. So what you're going to need is a different frame. You're going to need a frame like this that holds them separately into the cavity. And mounting this here like this can be done. It's going to be a little bit more difficult. And so your other mode is taking this piece that you have here, positioning the speakers right where you want them, sometimes even putting the tweeter on the bottom, putting your braces up, and then putting a whole cover on this panel here. First thing is I want to take you over to the router. I'm going to show you how to basically take a plain piece of MDF, some of our speaker rings, and come out with this, which will house your 6.5 and your tweeter. So let's go over to the router table. What we're going to need is we're going to need some speaker rings, we're going to need some sticks. I got a 1/2-inch piece of MDF here that's 8 by 11. We're also going to need certain router bits. This is the 1/2-inch flush trim with a 1/2-inch bearing. We're also going to need a 3/8-inch bearing, so make sure you have one of those. We're going to need our Allen wrench to change the bearing, and also we're going to need a rabbet bit so that we can trim for the speaker and for the mold fabric. I always like to have one of our releasing tools, one of our SP1s ready to go to pull stuff apart. A couple pieces of sandpaper, of course the speakers, the 6.5 and the tweeter. You're going to need a nail gun. Okay, you want to put 1/2-inch brads in this if you're working on 1/2-inch material, and 5/8 brads if you're working on 5/8 material. We're also going to need a drill with a 1/2-inch bit so we can get the flush trim through the wood. And our first step is to assess the speaker ring. We take the tweeter, and these are of a general size, so not all tweeters will fit inside them, like you can see here. This one's not fitting in too well. So what we want to do is take this 1/2-inch flush trim, take the 1/2-inch bearing off of it, put on the 3/8, and then go halfway on the inside, spin it around, and then flush trim it, and that will trim it down. So our first step is to take the bit, pull the Allen out of the top, has a washer there as you can see, pull the bearing. There's also a bottom washer you have to be aware of, okay? You want to put just the bearing on, the washer, and the Allen screw. Here's a close-up look of what it looks like. As you can see, I've got the bit set at about half. So when we trim this on the inside, it's going to take away 50% of the inside, and then we flip it over and flush trim it. And that'll pull off 1/16 of an inch. If we wanted to pull 1/8 of an inch off, we leave this bearing on for 2 passes. That gives us 1/8 of an inch, and then we flush trim. We've cut the half of the tweeter, and as you can see, it fits almost perfect now. And I just pulled a 1/16 of an inch off. Now it's still teetering in there, you can see that little gap there. But as soon as we flush trim the other side, it will fit perfect. So let's do that now. Look at that. Perfect fit. Now you can do the same thing on the outside. You just use the same bit, you trim half of it, flip it over, trim the other half, and then you'll have a ring that's perfectly fitted to the speaker that you're using. We'll do the same thing on the 6.5, and then we'll move to the next step. What we want to end up with is a teardrop shape. Now you can make this any shape that you want. You can make it square on certain edges, go real crazy with it. It doesn't really matter. It all depends on your imagination and the space that you have in the vehicle. But how are we going to get this perfect teardrop out of a blank piece of wood? Well, you can do it the old school way and just grab the jigsaw and jig around it and sand it for the rest of the afternoon, and you'll get close. But learn to use the router table. It's going to be so much faster. We've already decided by measuring in the car that these two rings are going to have to be right on top of each other in order for it to fit in that kick pod. That's a lot of speaker to put in a little Honda. So they're going to have to be right on top of each other. So you take your blank, you take your pencil, you've got your blank, you've got your rings, and don't forget your sticks. First thing you want to do is set it right where you want it. Use a measuring device of some sort, make sure your center, and mark them where they're at. I'm just marking the outside. And this is just to give us a little sketch of what it's going to look at. It's a lot easier to erase pencil than to throw the wood away and start over. Now the sticks are going to allow us to give nice straight edges from one ring to the next. So I'm going to draw those lines now from the very outer edge. So here's our ring. It's getting there. Now these don't mean anything. What we want to do is get the outside shape first. How we do that is we brad nail the rings that are already custom fit inside and outside to the speakers that we're going to use. We brad nail those right in place. So again, 1/2-inch brads, 1/2-inch material. I've got it set to countersink quite a bit, so we get a good 1/8 of an inch penetration on the other board. And it's just a temporary secure. So we're going to put, I like to try and put 4 brads in. Center this piece up. Sometimes on the tweeters, you don't want to go too crazy because you don't want to ruin the rings. So there you go. There's 3 there. Now, remember these pieces here, these nice sharp shapes that are kind of difficult to do with a jigsaw. I mean, this is difficult too, but to do this thing with a jigsaw would be impossible. So now we're going to take our sticks and we're going to tack them looking up from the top right where that line would be. We're going to bring them right to the edge of the tweeter ring and right to the edge of the 6.5 ring. And we're going to tack them to the rings. She's ready to cut with the router. Now what you're going to need for this one, and I like to do the outside first just to make sure that I get my shape right. What we're going to do is take this flush trim bit that we've been using with the flush bearing on it, and we're going to come up and we're going to trim this straight edge from here to here. You should mark your stopping points. Basically, your stopping points are the outermost areas on the 2 different rings. So we want to get rid of this. And then we're going to flip it around and do the same thing. We're going to get rid of this and this. Basically, cut those off. We want to set this bearing and the router all the way up so that the bearing rides only on the side spacer. If you put it too low, it's going to run underneath and it's not going to give you that shape. So we want it to ride right along that piece of wood. It worked out very nice. Gave us a perfectly straight edge. And I still have some of the material left here because we're going to come around. And now what you can do with that piece is you can pop it off, bring the router bit back in, finish where you left off, and come around the rest of the circle. So here's our piece. We've got our nice straight edge here. I've lowered the bit now so that the bearing will ride on the ring. You want to be careful not to go past this point. Got our nice straight edge, followed by a nice radius. Here's our piece, so we have the outside done. Now I'm going to drill a hole for the 1/2-inch bearing to fit through. I'm going to take a little 40 grit and get some of the MDF off that got pushed through by the bit. Just makes it safer. And for the tweeter, then you want to press fit these, make sure that the bearing is going to fit. Because when that baby is running, you want it to be able to fit on there nicely. So there's our pieces. Take our SP wand, pry the pieces off. There's our speaker rings that we can hang back on the shelf. And now we have our piece. Last thing we need to do is wrap at the edge and it'll be finished. And you can knock these babies out. You've got your speaker rings that are perfect to the size of those speakers. Hang them back on the wall, mark them. Got your templates, make a duplicate, triplicate, hang those on the wall, and we're ready to go. You want to take this rabbit bit that we were talking about earlier, and I have the collet on it, so it gives us 1/8 of an inch tall and 1/8 of an inch in. And we're going to go face down on that. Let me show you here. We're going to go face down on that so that we have this ledge on the top side of your template. Because what you're going to do with that is bring the mold fabric right onto this ledge, and then when you sand it flat, the mold fabric and the resin has a place to sit and attach without giving any big bulky, bumpy edge. You can be able to sand this just perfectly flat, and all your resin will attach to this ledge. You can do the same thing with the speakers if you wanted to, and you can use a rabbet that would come in a little deeper and countersink the speakers. So on the router table, the options are very endless. Just play around with it. We're going to be coming out with a router bit video, an advanced router bit video, where I go over just about every router bit and what they do and what you can use them for as soon as I can get to it. So here's our kick panel. We've got the ring, we've got the standoff. It's all super glued in place. Now we're going to take our micro mold fabric and we're going to lay it on here. And remember that it stretches in one direction a whole lot more than it stretches in the other direction. Now this is 7 ounces per square foot, where our gray mold fabric is 14 ounces per square foot. I'm using the lighter version because we're going to have to come really tight down this back edge, and so I want it to be a little bit thin. So we're going to lay it right in place. We're going to take our Alpha scissors and I'm going to trim basically right where I want the mold fabric to meet the plastic panel. Because then we're going to take some Duramix and we're going to Duramix that edge really well and then sand it flat, because the Duramix will grab onto the plastic, it won't let go, it won't crack, it'll be the perfect seam. Because you just do fiberglass to plastic, as we all know, it'll crack. So I'm going to lay this right where I want it. I'm going to take my Alpha scissors and I'm going to trim this up so that it's right where I want it. And what we want to do now is super glue, take the Select Speed Glue, we're going to use the 10-second, I still have the 30 standing by. We're going to take the 10-second and some activator, we're going to start from the center and put it right in place, right where we want it. Don't want to use too much, so I'm going to put a little drop there. I'm going to soak in the resin. I'm pushing down so that the mold fabric gets saturated, and then I'm going to hit it with a little bit of activator, and it's kind of like spot welding, so we're going to spot weld that right in there. And now I'm going to fold back the mold fabric, and I'm going to put the glue on the mold fabric because it'll be easier than putting it on the plastic. Putting it on the mold fabric and placing it right where I want it. It's attaching beautifully, very fast. And you're going to do this to the whole piece until you have the front section complete. Now don't worry if you have any openings here on the edges, because we're coming back with the Duramix and we're going to put the Duramix all on that edge once we have it secured, and that's going to give us that nice tight bond that's flexible and it won't crack. Once you have the whole front done exactly where you want it, you've taken a look at it and you're very happy with it, you want to pull the back nice and tight and have as little or no wrinkles as possible visible to the eye from the front of the car. If they're going to be invisible and you need to do an overlap, that's okay because you're not going to see it anyway. And there's the shape of our kick panel. There she is, ready to go. That's what it looks like in the car. It's not very obtrusive, shouldn't get in the way of the clutch at all. This is the driver's side, and it should work very nicely. Want to trim off the excess off the back, so we definitely don't need it. We're ready to fiberglass the pod, and I know that you guys have seen me mix resin a million times. And it's very crucial when you're working with plastic. I mean, usually we have a wood structure, a metal structure, something very strong. But a kick panel is just plastic, and it's usually very thin with very little reinforcement. So you want to mix your resin properly. Don't rush it, because if you rush it, it's going to shrink and it's not even going to fit in the car. 1%, that's it, no more. If it takes an extra 10 minutes to dry, then it takes an extra 10 minutes to dry, because, you know, to start over, you're going to have to go to the dealership or the junkyard and get another part and start all over. The extra 10 minutes, even if it were half an hour, would be worth it. So 1% MEKP, that's it, no more, so that it doesn't shrink. And here we go. You've seen me do this a million times. I'm going to saturate the mold fabric. I'm not going to put any, if at all, resin onto the plastic. I'm just doing the mold fabric. You can even take some of the resin and pour it inside and then roll it around in there so that it can get to all the edges. When it's saturated, you can see it almost looks like it's bleeding. So we're going to let that dry for about a half an hour. Now here is the kick panel for doing the separates, 6.5 and tweeter. Now remember, we marked with a magic marker if we were to use this backing for the previous kick panel. Then we can do that. It really all depends on what you want to do. It's not essential that you have this backing. Okay, you can see the procedure that we did where we wrapped the mold fabric around the back side of the kick pod, the kick panel, the factory kick panel, and it works out fine. It's really fast. You didn't even have to lay this up in the car at all. But if you're going to do something huge like this, something a little more high-end, a lot more expensive, then you're going to need more space. You can see right here the line that we drew where we were going to use the factory pod up against it. But as soon as we go with a two-way system, that line's inside and it's not giving us enough space. So we're going to have to redraw that line to give us enough space for this 6.5. So there's our new drawing. And now it's time to put our safety glasses on and grab the air saw and trim this baby up. As you can see, this piece is all done now. I've trimmed out the edge. I've even had to trim a little bit on the inside so that the speaker would fit in. And now it's ready for our template that we made on the router table, the tweeter in 6.5. We want to take a couple things into consideration. You got to remember that this is a manual transmission car, so we got to give enough room for the clutch with also giving enough angle so that the car sounds really good. And our next step here is to super glue this right in place, and if need be, use some standoffs to give it more angle so we can put it right exactly where we want it. Now, the other way of doing this, and I've done it in the plexiglass video, is you can take the same template and wrap it with our low heat plastic. And what this will do for you is it will give you that teardrop shape of a grill, where if you just do it this way, you're relying on the grill of the speaker that you're using. So it really depends on what you're doing, what your customer's doing, and how much money you're getting for the job, because doing it the longer way with the back baffle and all these other processes is going to cost you more money and more time, so make sure you price it appropriately. But I'm going to show you how to do this one more time, and we can set them in there and I can show you the differences. Basically, using your master, you want to cut about 3 or 4 of these, because one of them is going to be the master for the grill, one will be the master to hold the speaker, and you're going to use 2 of these together and then wrap it. This piece of low heat plastic is 1 1/8 inches, and that will give us wrapping all the way around it. You've seen me do this before, but I'm going to show you again in case you haven't seen our plexiglass video. But here's a base piece, and here is a base with the holes cut in for the 6.5 and the tweeter. We're going to want to put this on the bottom, take our low heat plastic, put it flush up against the table, and tack it on with 1/4 inch staples. Now you want to do this on a flat side. You're not going to want to put this over here on the edge, because you're not going to be able to get it to sit flat. So we start here and we tack it in place. Now as soon as we get to the edge, we're going to need to heat it up so that it bends easily. That's why they call it low heat plastic. It doesn't take very much. Now that I have it heated up, I'm going to take my other piece and put it on top, snug in the plastic, and I'm going to pull it tight so that it gives me the perfect shape that I want. If I'm not getting the perfect shape, heat it up a little bit more until you get it. Because it should be flush, top and bottom here. And so now you can go around with your staples, but make sure that you're only stapling on the bottom piece. Okay, excellent. So we'll just continue on with this. Now we have the larger radius. Now when you come to the end here, you're going to want to cut the low heat plastic flush with the other piece. You're going to want to do that with an alpha knife or a really strong razor. So we're going to heat it up, and we're going to especially heat it right where we think we're going to cut it. This will make it cut much easier with the razor blade. Okay, so I have it all heated up. I'm going to take the razor blade, line the two pieces up right here, and I'm going to follow the back edge all the way down. So there it is right there. That'll give us the perfect seam that we're looking for. Now we have this nice base done with this nice trim. Just spin it around, take a look at it. You've got all this space in here for a grill, for inserts. You could do carbon fiber, plexi mirror, just about anything, any kind of wood grain. You set that in, you use this as your template on the router, and then you just set the piece right in. You also use this template for making your speaker grill if you want a teardrop speaker grill versus using the grills that come with it. I mean, with this one, you could even still use the grills that come with it. You put the speaker in, put the grill in. So you have a couple of options with this method. So the next step with this piece, before we're finished with it, you want to take some of the 30-second glue that we have. 10, here's 30. Because it's a gel, and it's going to fill the gap of the two pieces together. Let's go back to our base piece here. Now we had talked about using just this in the car, using the mold fabric, rolling the mold fabric around, attaching it to the rabbited area here. That'll work awesome. And now we have this option here where we can do the same thing, attach it with super glue, use the mold fabric, put the pieces together. So we have some options here, and you can even explain these options to your customer and say, well, which system would you like? You want to do a coax, you want to do a separate with the factory grills, or you want to do a separate with a one-piece grill. So you have three different options here on the kick panels, and you can price them accordingly. I've got the piece right where I want it. I've hit it with a piece of 10-second glue, hit it with a piece of 10-second glue down there. I hit the activator. I'm going to lay it down so I can get these other two edges. I'm only using 2 drops. You don't need a lot, and if you use too much, it takes too long to dry anyway. So when that dries, which will only be a few seconds, we'll be ready to move on to the next part on this, which is going to be the mold fabric. And before we do the mold fabric, we may want to just check the edges to make sure that we have all rounded edges. It'll be easier to work on, and that it's looking just perfect for us. You also want to make sure that your speakers are going to fit in. I checked this one prior, and I had to cut a little bit of a hole in the back, but as you can see, our 6.5 fits in there. So you always want to take that into consideration depending on the speaker you're using. Some speakers have larger magnets than others, and you want to make sure that it's going to fit. Remember this one? This one's all nice and dry now, and it's ready for us to work on. 2 tools you're going to need. First off, you're going to need your angle die grinder. Don't forget to wear your safety glasses. What we want to do is shave down where the mold fabric comes in contact with the plastic. You're going to want to get a good edge, nice and smooth, and you also want to rough up the plastic pretty good so that we can come in with the Duramix and fill that edge, because this is a urethane, it's flexible, it's sandable, and it won't crack, because if we leave it just the way it is, it's just going to crack on us. Now that you have the entire edge done, okay, we have it scuffed on the plastic. We've brought down the mold fabric so it meets it nice and flush. If you're really good with a die grinder and you can show some control, not burn through the piece, what I like to do is go and shave the shape into it in case there's any really high spots. This will take it off very fast before we get into the DA sander. So what you want to do is just drag it along, just like this, being very easy with it. You can see the color change because it's taking out all the high spots, and you can show all the fiberglass there. All right, our next step is to take the center out. You can take your razor, and all depending on how close you came to the edge, you should be able to cut most of the mold fabric right out of the center without too much hassle. If some of the resin soaked over into it, not a big deal. That's what you have your die grinder for. But you can take a look, and even if it's thin, your razor knife, you have a good one, like this Alpha here, it will pull it off for you. Now you have a decision once you get to this point of if you want to put extra work into it or maybe not. You can sand or die grind the mold fabric down to the wood if you want to. It takes a little bit of time, but it gives you a real nice edge to it. All depending on the speaker and the speaker grill, you may or may not want to do that. With this speaker grill, since it's all protecting and encompassing, it wraps all the way around the speaker. I'm not going to waste the time because I want to show you how to make kick panels very fast so you can make money. And so this one's just about ready for our texture coating. You're going to want to scuff all of the plastic, get yourself some 80 grit, and make sure that you scuff all the plastic so that the texture coat will stick to it. Do the whole thing with 80, and that's it, just 80, and then we'll be ready to paint it. And now we're ready to do the Duramix right in this edge. So I blew it off. I'm going to take some paper towel, a little bit of acetone, just to prep the surface, make sure that it's going to get a really good bite. I prep every surface, whether it's needed to or not, just because we're trying to make money and we don't have time for the customers to come back and ask us to do it again. Take a terry cloth and just wipe off any of the paper towel crap. And now she's ready. This is the 40-40. It's the black urethane. And it's sandable, so you can put it on real heavy, filling the void. You can put it on light, like right around this area here. You can even go back track if you want to do a nice build up. Make sure that everything attaches. Beautiful. And this is going to take about 20 minutes to dry, so I'm going to set it aside for now. Now with the Duramix, you just leave the tip on, it'll catalyze inside the tube, and then when you're ready to use it again, you just put on a new tube and you're ready to rock and roll. We're ready to work on this piece now, our kick panel with the teardrop baffle and teardrop grill. Just like when we did the other piece, you're going to want to use mold fabric. I'm going to use the standard mold fabric on this one since I used the micro on the other one. This one's a little larger and we're going to want a little bit more strength. So what you want to do is drape it over, turn it upside down, and super glue it around the edge. Make sure you pull it tight so that it has a nice shape on the front. So just like before. So I won't bore you to death with this. I'll do a little bit of it and then we'll fast forward. You can see that it's got a nice shape already. And all we need to do now is trim the excess mold fabric off of it and soak it with resin, and it'll be ready to go. Just like before, only 1% MEK when you're working on small pieces like this. Now the back panel on this is fiberglass and it's a lot stronger than the plastic. But since it's so small and it's so crucial that it fit the car perfectly, don't over catalyze it because it will shrink on you. You can see this little light spot right here. That's because the resin hasn't gone all the way through the mold fabric. So you want to make sure that you soak it all the way. The outside is now done. I'm going around just to check and see if I see any light spots. If I see any light spots, we're going to soak them. While we're letting that other panel dry, which will take about 20 to 30 minutes, we've brought the other kick panel back. The Duramix is all nice and dry now, and we're ready to sand it. First thing we want to try and sand with is our die grinder to bring down the high spots and go easy with it. You want to be cautious. So see that? So we want to get a smooth transition from the mold fabric to the plastic. This is what we want to do right here. You can take your 80 grit sandpaper and come right across, and so that it's perfect. I put a few pieces of super glue, the 30-second super glue, where some low spots were because it's sandable. But I brought all the Duramix down so that it had a nice smooth transition from one to the other. 80 grit sandpaper, that's it. No body filler on this, no Bondo, no Rage Gold, no nothing. You only want the Duramix to attach it. It's the only thing that's not going to crack. So I'm going to sand this a little bit more, and then our next step is we're going to prep it. Okay, we have the SEM Sand Free, which is the plastic prep. We're going to add some texture coat, and then we're going to color it. And you should be able to do these in one day, no problem. Charge your customer a couple $100, wham bam, got the speaker in, ready to go. It'll look and sound totally awesome. We've got our panel just about ready. I've sanded it down with 80. I hit it with 220 just to make sure that I got all the plastic fibers down, because those plastic fibers sometimes will stand up on edge and they'll make it a hassle for you to prep it, prime it, paint it, all that good stuff. So what you can do now is really decide where you want to go with this one. I'm going to show you how to texture coat it because I'm trying to make it really fast and make you guys some money. Time is money. So our next step is going to be to prime the whole piece. Now the best way to do it is our spray polyfill, and I've done that in our other videos. It is by far the best way of doing it. But I'm going to show you something a little different. Another product that we also carry is in an aerosol can. It's made by Duplicolor. It's a filler primer. It has the same idea as the polyfill, but it doesn't have a catalyst, so it doesn't harden like a Bondo or like a resin, and it's going to take a little longer to dry. But it all depends on, I mean, if you have the spray polyfill, use it. No questions asked. It's the best. But I'm going to use this aerosol can and show you that it can also be done for those of you that maybe don't have a compressor or don't have the means, and you can do it this way. It'll take a little bit longer. You want to let it dry for a good half an hour, even 45 minutes before you move to the next step. But it's really easy. You want to just fill all the pinholes that are in the mold fabric, any of the crazy shapes or indentations in the plastic, and then you're going to sand it afterwards with a 220 and make sure it's ready for the next step, which is going to be the texture coat. Okay, here's our heavy coat. As you can see, it's nice and smooth. Most of the pinholes are filled. If you don't fill them all on this pass, you can let it dry and then do another coat right after this one. But it's looking really good. While the other kick panel is drying, we brought our kick panel number 3, I guess, into play. The resin's nice and hard. I actually put it up under a couple of hot lamps and it dried it very quickly, so that's another way of speeding your process. Next step we're going to do is take the mold fabric out of the center. Just run the knife right around the edge. See what we got inside. And there you can see we're looking pretty good. Kick panel goes in the vehicle just like that. Got a nice room. We got all our mold fabric dried, ready to go. So we're going to hit it with a little bit of 40 grit. We're going to hit it with some 80 grit. We're going to prime it. And then we're going to wrap this one in vinyl. And that one will be really nice. So I'll show you the texture coating on the other one. We'll do vinyl on this one. This is what you want it to look like with 40. Okay, you can see a little bit of holes in here. But that's okay because we're going to wrap it with vinyl. And you just want to get all the high spots out of it so you don't see any of the high spots when you wrap it with the vinyl. I did the 40 all the way around, including on the inside, on the low heat plastic, all over the mold fabric, making sure that it brought it all down. We've got our kick panel back here, the one for the coax, and we sprayed it with that filler primer, that of the aerosol can, and it came out okay. I would say that it didn't come out great. I am pleased with most of it, but there's still some pinholes that are a little bit on the deep side. And when it comes out of that aerosol can, it's going to shrink down to the surface and only give you a little bit of fill. It won't give you a big fill like the spray polyfill will. So when you run into this, you got to break out the Bondo or the body filler. So we're going to use this new Rage Gold. This is the Rage Extreme. And I'm going to fill some of the pinholes with it so that we can get a perfect pod. So we're going to take our piece and where I have these pinholes, I'm not putting very much on, just a little bit, just to fill the few little pinholes that I couldn't get rid of with the body filler, the spray body filler. I put the lightweight body filler on and trimmed it all out, and it's just about to cure, so that's when you want to grab some of your sandpaper. I'm going to grab some more 80. But you got to be very careful because I just barely scraped the surface with it just to fill those extra deep holes that I couldn't get with the spray on. So I'm just going to scuff it around, making sure that I don't dig in too deep. So you want to do this with 80, I'm going to do it with 120, and then we should be ready. Now our kick panel is ready for the texture coat. Put a little bit of the lightweight body filler on it. We hit it with a little bit of the spray filler. It's ready to go now. One thing we do want to do before we do this texture coat is put some of the sand free on here, especially in the areas where it's tough for us to sand, and this will give us a nice good tack. And now it's time to apply the texture coating. So we're going to shake that up really good. And you want to put just a light coat on first. See how it's looking? Looking pretty good. And we're going to do the whole panel like this. We're going to let that dry for about 10 minutes, and then we'll come back with our next coat and even maybe a third coat. And then to finish it off, we'll probably hit a little 400 on it, and then we'll color it the same color as the car. So don't go anywhere. Here's an idea of the texture of the part. There's a couple of spots on here that are lifting, and that could be for a variety of reasons. Could have a little bit of oil there. Something underneath didn't agree with the texture coat, but don't worry about it, because as soon as it dries, we'll hit it with a little 300 or 400 and dust it again, and it'll be perfect. Repairs on this is very, very easy. You see, it looks factory. And when we put the speaker in it, it's going to have this great contrast of color. It's going to really look nice. We've got our panel all dry now. We have the texture coating on. I put 2.5, 3 coats on it so I could get the texture that I wanted. A couple spots lifted, so I hit it with a little 400, dusted over it, let it dry again, and now it's ready for color. and I picked out of our book the matching color to the car, shook it up really well, and you want to apply it just like you do spray paint. Do a light dusting, and then come back and put a nice coat on. There's our first coat, so I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to give it 10-15 minutes, and then we'll do our second coat, and then we'll mount the speaker, and it's ready to go in the car. It's that fast. On our other piece, this piece is ready for the next steps, but we're going to have to bring the car back in so that we can Bondo match the edge to the car. So we're going to have to bring that car in. I've already made a insert out of brushed aluminum that snaps in there, and we're going to go over all that in just a minute. So hang out, we'll let this baby dry, and then we'll keep moving. We're back at the car, and we've got our kick panel now. This is the one that we made with the low heat plastic and the back fiberglass. Now we want to fit it to the car, and with the contours of the plastic, it's nice because it goes right around umbilical cords and shapes to the car for you. But we want to test fit it. Looking pretty good. We got plenty of room for the clutch here, plenty of room for the trunk release. Nothing's really in the way. Next thing we want to do is drill some holes, making sure that we don't interfere with any electrical or any brains. We got to be careful, look behind, make sure. I'm going to put a hole in the center over here and a hole here, and I'm going to attach it to the steel here and the steel back here with some panhead screws, and that will be the permanent mounting location of the kick panel. So, okay, nice and tight, and that's where it's going to go. Our next step is to Bondo match the edge, this front edge, this edge here. As you can see, the edge along this carpet looks really good. We won't have to do any Bondo matching there, and the back's pretty good. And the way back you can't even see anyway. So what we want to do is make this edge perfect. So the first thing we want to do is mark it with some of our blue duct tape, basically telling us exactly where the kick panel sits. This stuff is great against carpeting, great on plastic, and it releases really nice. There's a serration on it that works great with fiberglass, Bondo, all kinds of good stuff. Once we have our established area of Bondo matching, we can now pull the kick pod back out. So we can take this out of the car. Now what we want to do is put down our plastic to protect the carpeting so we don't damage the car. And tape it down in place. Now that we have the plastic all down, we want to bring the kick panel back in and mount it to the same screw locations. All right, as you can see, we're all ready to go. Everything's protected with the vinyl duct tape. And what we're going to do is fill this edge with the body filler so that when we wrap it with vinyl, it'll match the door perfectly. It'll match the car perfectly. That's what our plan is. So I'm going to mix up some body filler, and we're going to push it in there. So I'm going to grab some, and I mixed it medium. I didn't mix it too hot, and I didn't mix it too cold. And this is the Rage Extreme, which is a bit thin. So we want to get it in there, starting at the top, as you can see, as close to the top as I can get. And then just letting it fall down and pushing it in where it needs to go as we come down, trying not to get too much on the piece itself that'll just be more sanding. And you can see it's falling down all on its own. And all I have to do is push it in right where I want it. Now, if the bottom of your piece wasn't lining up, all you'd have to do is take some, push it into the bottom. Okay, make sure you scrape off whatever you're not using so that you don't have a big sanding project when you pull it back out of the car. Okay, I'm checking on the filler and it's still warm, but it's mostly dry. And we want to try and get it out now because it'll be easier to work on while it's warm. It'll be easier to sand. So we're going to try and take the plastic and everything with it. Here it comes. All right, she's loose. Get it out of here without damaging it. Take it over to the table and start sanding it. While that other piece is finishing up drying, we're going to go sand it. Do you remember this piece that we worked on? Factory kick panel, 6.5-inch coax, all the factory mountings. Let's put this baby in and we'll be done. It should snap right into the factory mounts. There she goes. Now what you're going to have to do, just like in the other panel, since we tried to retain the mounting bracket, but the speaker was too large, you're going to want to drill a hole and fasten it to the back wall with a screw so that she's nice and strong. There we go. Now I've pre-drilled the holes for this speaker because this speaker uses Allen heads. And anytime you're using Allen heads, you want to make sure that you pre-drill. Now what's really cool about this tweeter is you can aim it up and at the driver. It's a very cool speaker. So this is going to go right here. I'm going to hand tighten the screws first. And then I'm going to tighten them just easy. And it didn't take a lot of time. Took very little materials. Used the factory panel, speaker ring, mold fabric. We used the texture coat. We used the spray sim coat. Now we could match these two together, but of course it'd be very difficult for you to see on camera how the seaming matches up. So I did it a little bit lighter so you can see the contrast. And away you go, plenty of room, everything's factory. That is the fastest, most productive way to do kick panels. We've got our kick pod out of the car now, and we've got the Bondo matching right along this top edge. And now what we want to do is shape that. What we want to do is remember how it sat in the car just like this, and the edge, for those of you who know what I know about Bondo, if it's very thin it's going to crack, and even if it's thick it could crack. So we're going to have to reinforce the back side or the front side or both, all depending on how we feel about it. Because your customer gives it one swift kick, no pun intended, and it could break on you, and then you'll have to repair it. Now we have our traditional shaver that you guys have always used, the cheese grater, but now select, we have some new ones which are really nice. We have concave, we've got a convex, we've got a flat one, we've got a triangle, and even a round. And these work really nice, much nicer than the conventional one, to shape and remove the pieces that we don't want. I'm actually going to take a magic marker and mark on the back side here, right where I want to go flat. Because remember, we're wrapping this with vinyl, and we're not going to have a lot of room for a big peak like a mountaintop here, so we're going to have to flatten all of this off. So all of that right there is going to have to get flattened off. And I'm going to use our flat rasp here to take this stuff off. Once you get past the thin stuff and you hit the thick stuff, you'll know it. And that's what we want to keep, is what's thick. And then, of course, you're going to contour the front of this so that it's nice and smooth. This works much faster than sandpaper. But once we get it shaped with this, we will grab the 40 grit and finish shaping it up. Okay, I've finished with the sharp edge. Now we want to remember, since this meets up with the car, we don't want to be sanding any of this on this side, only the top and the front side, because we want this to match right up to the car's plastic, which it currently does. So I'm going to take a piece of 40 grit and we're going to blend this Bondo match into the actual panel. And with the 40, you're just trying to get the high spots and get the shape, and then we'll go to the 80. So this shouldn't take you very long. All right, there it is. You can see it's all nice, sanded, good shape. You can tell it shapes right to the car. And it's all ready for vinyl wrapping. Now, before we vinyl wrap, what I needed to do was decide if we wanted to put any inserts on here, if we wanted to make a grill, or did we just want to use the grills that come with the speakers. We had to make some decisions here of what we wanted to do. So I want to try and give you some options. Option number one, okay? Use the grills that come with the speakers. It looks pretty nice. You can paint the MDF if you want, paint the trim. You know, you could do like some kind of candy color would be really cool. An option I really like is using the ABS laminates that we have. I made one out of brushed silver. Basically just took the template, double taped it to the template, used a flush trim router bit. That secured with the speaker will be plenty. It looks really nice. You can do this in carbon fiber, wood grain, whatever your customer wants. Looks really hot with the speaker. Also, if you want to do grills, you take the master, you trim it down 1/16 of an inch, and that will go right in here. So when we wrap the vinyl around, you'll have space to fit this in here with the grill cloth, and it'll fit perfectly in there. You can put the grill metal on top. We still have the depth for it. All right, we're ready to wrap the kick pod. We've done all the Bondo matching. Everything's nice and tight. We sanded it down with 80 grit. And we've got our supplies. We've got some acetone. We're going to prep it. Got my gloves. Don't forget your vinyl tool, very important. Razor knife, contact cement. On something this small, of course, you can spray it if you have the aerosol. If you guys are usually spraying out of a spray gun, I like to put a little bit in a cup, just like if you've seen video number 7. I brush it on because you get 100% contact, and plus we're going to need super glue. Now I picked a vinyl that is a bit contrasting to the car, but I want you to be able to see it on the video. So we've got our new carbon fiber, and this is the pearl blue. It's a really nice color. The kids are loving this right now. And we're going to cut a piece of this and then get it on here. All right, on every vinyl, just like in our past videos, they're going to stretch more way than another. So this one's stretching really nice this way, not so much the other way. Okay, so this is all of our stretch is this way. And when we look at the pod, we have to remember that you're sitting and you're seeing this part of the pod the most, where back here you're not going to see it all. So if we had to seam it, we want to seam it in the back, so we want this to be perfect, this whole front area. And in the back, if we have to split it or seam it, which we may or may not have to, this is where we would want to put it. So with the stretch being on this side, I'm going to put it on this way so that we can pull at the shorter ends and wrap it down. All right, I'm going to trim it a little bit more. It's still a little big. There, that's a good size right there. So we want to prep the piece with the acetone. Now some paper towel. You can use terry cloth, it doesn't matter. I just want to make sure that there's no oil or anything. Also the inside, very important. You can also use PVC prep on the inside, which works awesome. But just want to make sure that our glue is going to stick and stick very well. Also along the back side, give that a quick once over. Now we're going to be using the super glue because it's obviously fiberglass. You're not going to be able to use a bunch of nails like you could if it were wood. So there. Gave it a quick once over. And now we want to put our contact cement on the pod and on the vinyl. I'm going to start on the pod. You don't want to go too heavy, but you want to make sure that you coat the whole piece. I'm going to brush it on, making sure that you don't have any clumps anywhere at all. You also want to do the inside, but try not to get it on the wood here. Just do it on the inside rim, because we are going to be rolling the vinyl to the inside. With the pod all done, now we want to do the vinyl. Making sure, again, you don't have any clumping spots whatsoever. But you get 100% coverage, very important. Now this piece of vinyl was a little bit large, so I don't have to go crazy and go all the way to the edge, but I'm getting very close. Now I have both pieces covered with glue. We're ready to go. So just like in prior videos, you want to start from the center and work your way out. But on the kick pod, make sure the part that's going to be visible is absolutely perfect. I mean, we want to make the whole thing perfect, but if we can't, we put the seam in the back. All right? So here's the pod, and we're going to bring this over and lay it on and start from the center and work our way out. Okay, I'm just going to lay it there. I'm going to go around the ring area here. I'm going to fold this area back, and then we'll start stretching the side that we want perfect. Okay, I'm just running my hands around the top just to secure that edge. And now if you look under here, this is the Bondo matching edge here. That's the very front bottom. So we want this side to be absolutely perfect. So we're going to do that side first. And we're going to do that by pulling down, stretching it just a little bit, running our fingers over it, pushing it so that it's right where we want it. This is going on really nice. This is a really good shape to work with. It's not being very difficult. Okay, so there's the top edge. There's the front edge. You can see it laid down really nice. Now the bottom, as you can see, is going to be a bit of trouble here. But what we're going to do is pull it off a little bit, pull it tight, and it should lay down just nice for us. There we go. And we'll even roll the bottom edge here. You see we got another little bubble here. Pull that. And that's why I chose to have the stretch this direction, so I can pull it and wrap it under. What's nice about wearing these gloves is it gives you extra grip on the vinyl, especially if you're working hard and sweating. Sweat stays inside. So here we're rolling the bottom edge. There's the front. Again, pulling, bringing it down, tacking it, rolling the edge. Okay, I've trimmed it all off. There's the back side, front side. And what we want to do now is get our super glue and go around the entire edge. I'm using the 10-second again. And super glue the edge. This will ensure that it never comes off and your customer isn't banging on the door saying, hey, my vinyl's coming off, man. Using a little activator because I ain't got a lot of time. Time is money. And do that for the whole part, all the way around. We got the whole piece done now, front and back. Next thing we need to do is the center. Now we want to be careful on this in case you've never done it before. Don't cut it too far to the edge because you can't go back. Better to cut too short. So I just basically like to cut about 3/4 of an inch to the center or to the end here. Bring it all the way across and basically just do an X, kind of just to get the party started. That'll make it more flexible and easier to work with. Now you're going to want to use a heat gun for this, and you're also going to want to have your vinyl tool. Now remember, we put contact cement in there. So what we want to do is do a bunch of little cuts about 3/4 of an inch away. We'll start with this edge right here. The tighter the radius, the more cuts you're going to need. Okay, so here's all of our cuts. And then what we want to do is with our thumb is roll in the edge all the way around until it's perfect. Now I got it with a thumb. Now you're going to want to go back with your vinyl tool and really push in the corners nice and tight. These vinyl tools are great because they won't cut the vinyl. And they apply a lot of force per square inch or per square centimeter, so the vinyl won't release. And there you have it. It's all tucked in very nicely. So I'm going to do the whole thing. Next step, take your razor knife and right in the edge, trim out the excess vinyl and remove it so you have a nice clean edge all the way around. Now once again, after you have that all out, get your super glue, and don't use too much, but run a bead of super glue on the edge of the vinyl, and that will make sure that it never comes out. We're almost finished. All we have to do now is remember the insert that I made. Pop that insert in. Put the speakers in. Put it in the car. And it's ready to go. And that's it. She's in and done. Well, that's it for our kick panel video. My name is Robert Garza. Thank you for buying our videos. If you need any of these supplies, contact us at Select Products, 800-458-6063, or selectproducts.com. I'll see you next time. Come on.